You're watching Executive Decision, where India's top economic leaders join us on the challenges of India's ambitious goal of a $5 trillion economy. Joining us today is Mr. Rajneesh Kumar. He's the chairman of the State Bank of India, India's largest lender. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us on Executive Decision. Now, Mr. Kumar, before we get into the banks and the challenges they face, I know the government has announced several steps to roll back some of the pain points of the economy, but overall, how serious do you see the problem confronting the economy currently?
The way I look at it is that there are certain sectors of the economy where we are seeing slowdown. And one is, of course, maximum discussed has been the auto sector, where we are now manufacturing fewer cars. Sales wise, I am not so sure we are selling fewer cars, because a lot of recycling in the auto sector is also happening.
But they are saying that sales are down by almost 20%.
Of the new cars.
Which is the highest in 2 decades.
Of the new cars.
Yes.
But not the old cars.
Okay.
So people are buying second-hand cars also.
Right.
So that figure also we take into account. But if we are talking about auto sector as of now.
Yes.
So this is a sector where a lot is happening. In terms of the way we manage our daily trips. Now we have all the aggregators. You see, now
okay. No, I'm saying we'll come to the problems of the auto sector in depth separately. But from what I understand you're saying the problem on the economy is confined to a few sectors. Is
That's
that right?
What I
So number one, you're saying auto sector.
Auto is there, real estate
is
but
down.
that is not a new problem.
Okay.
Unsold inventory has been, I have been discussing within the bank and the builders for last 6 years.
Okay, to real estate.
Right. So real estate, but because of RERA, there was a transition period.
Yes.
And
this
we
is
are
the
coming
new
out
Real
of
Estate
that,
Regulatory Act.
And there is some decline, in fact, in the inventory. But real estate sector, because of the NBFC, there were issues after ILFS default. So that has impacted these sectors. Again, auto, real estate, both the sectors, particularly on the builder financing side. Housing loan side, I have not seen any slowdown. We are continuing at the same rate.
So these
18%.
two sectors you're saying are down.
And of course, some problems with the flow of credit to the NBFC, which is an intermediary.
NBFC being your shadow banks.
Shadow banking.
But sir, that's not just these two sectors. You must have heard now, people like the Parle CEO, Britannia CEO, these are what are called fast moving consumer goods. They sell literally 5 rupees packets of biscuits. They say that they're also down. They're saying their potential job loss is confronting them. Exports are down.
Yeah. But I think
overall, some people are saying demand, we used to be a demand driven economy, demand is down.
No, demand, there is slowdown, I agree with that. But when we talk even about the FMCG sector, so forgive me for saying this,
yes.
But if you do a deeper analysis of what has happened in Q1 FY20 over the previous year,
yes.
There are many FMCG companies who have shown good growth both in terms of top line and bottom line.
Okay.
So precisely that is what I am saying, that we should not draw many hasty conclusions. If you say that everything is normal, I am not making that statement.
Okay, so you're giving a slightly more pragmatic view of what some people are seeing as much more of a deeper crisis. But are you also, Mr. Kumar, being somewhat overly optimistic? Because if you look at what Rajiv Kumar himself said of Niti Aayog, he said this is a deep crisis in the financial sector of the kind that we've not had 70 years. He said nobody has faced this sort of situation where the entire financial system is under threat. Nobody is trusting anybody else. Within the private sector, nobody is ready to lend. Everyone is sitting on cash. This is coming from Niti Aayog.
So that is what you have to ask the Niti Aayog. If you ask me that as a state bank, what is the liquidity position? State Bank of India alone today,
yes,
I can fund growth of 1 lakh crore in 1 month. That is the kind of liquidity I am sitting on.
You are sitting on 1 lakh crore liquidity which you are willing to lend to fund that kind of growth.
So,
but then why are there no takers for this?
No. There will be takers.
Okay.
It's not also that there are no takers. There are, the way to look at it again is that there are certain sectors where there are certain sector specific issues. Then there are certain sectors which consume more capital than others. But third issue, let me complete now. Third issue is about that first half of the year in India is always an easy season.
Okay.
the YTD growth after March.
Right.
Last year was also down. This year is also down.
YTD being?
Year to date means from 1st April
Oh, right. Okay.
till date.
Right.
So every time it goes into negative territory.
Okay.
When I look at YOY, year
on year.
then State Bank even today, my YOY domestic growth is 12%.
Okay.
So it means I do lot of credit in the second half of the year.
Okay, you're hoping things will pick up, but let
Yes.
me just push you a little bit on that, because you're saying you're sitting on 1 lakh crore liquidity ready to lend, but there's a perception, as we just heard Mr. Rajiv Kumar say, several others share, that actually there's a liquidity problem, that banks simply have too much bad debt, they're not willing to lend, the government is front loading 70,000 crore infusion. But from what you're saying, that's not the case. It's not shortage of money that's the problem. There is enough money in the system.
Liquidity problem is very comfortable. The entire banking system is sitting on the
flush with cash.
Flush with cash. Now the lending is also happening, but there is a shift. Now many banks and most of the banks, the shift has been more towards retail. When you do retail, housing loan even today on a base of in excess of 4 lakh crore for my home loan portfolio.
Right.
If YOY I grow by 18%,
Right.
which is that for new houses or home loans, I am
Right.
lending 72,000 crore, right?
Yes.
What is not happening is that major capex, that is what happened in a certain period of time.
Major capital expansion.
Which happened in say after 2008. So this country added 75,000 megawatt of
Right.
capacity in power generation.
So you're saying big projects
Big
are
projects,
not coming.
there are fewer. Like say for example, we have one big project in Rajasthan where HPCL is putting a refinery. So there itself the requirement is 26,000 crore.
Right.
Take example of Mumbai-Nagpur Expressway.
Right.
Borrowing requirement for that project is 25,000 crore
Right.
from the banking system.
Right.
So these are large size of project,
Why
50,000
do you
crore
think?
each.
So why do you think that the big projects, the big businessmen, the big players, why are they holding back?
No, there could be couple of reasons. One is again this period, last 2-3 years, there have been a period of transition. Lot of reforms like RERA, GST, IBC, lot of reforms have come in. So that is one transition phase. Second is we had excess capacity also. The PLF, for example, in power sector, it was hovering around 58%. Now it has moved to 70%.
Let me ask you this though. You're saying that corporate balance sheets have been under pressure. That's one of the reasons. But what about from your side, from the bank side? Is it also not true that you are also much more conservative in terms of lending than you were earlier?
There has been some change in the approach. Now,
would you call that a more conservative approach? You're not you're not describing it.
I mean, more, not a question more.
Okay.
A banker's by nature is conservative.
Okay.
The
but let
moment
me, yeah.
the moment banker becomes entrepreneur,
yes,
you will find problem.
Of course.
So
but are you more
whenever
careful now? That's all I'm asking you.
We are careful, absolutely,
Yes.
because it cannot be business as usual. We are careful
Yes.
about the appraisals, determining the requirement, visibility of equity, whether a promoter is in a position to bring in equity. Third
Right.
thing is promoters themselves
Yes.
now are deleveraging,
Right.
because
Deleveraging meaning they're
they're
reducing debt
reducing
basically.
their debt basically, which is also not a bad thing.
Right.
But if they deleverage or they reduce their debt, obviously the credit growth to the corporate cannot be as high as we expect it.
Okay. So
So
you're
these
saying
are some structural changes which are happening,
which are going on.
which are going on and which are for the good.
Right.
Now today, like you spoke about trust, right? This is a fact that whatever has happened in the past 6 to 12 months about like rating agencies, about the auditors,
Yes.
about the banking NPAs, diversion of
Yes.
funds. So obviously
There will be some impact of that.
There
But,
will be.
Let me ask you on NPAs though, because as I mentioned earlier, one of the interpretations was that banks aren't lending because there's a huge NPA pressure. How much is that the case now? Is your NPA situation genuinely serious,
no, there is a
or has it improved?
no, there is a considerable improvement, and again the improvement has to be viewed because at one time we were very bad.
Yes.
So we are less bad.
So
So
here's
we are
the
not good.
here's the
even
number.
now.
Here's the number I have. So 17, 18 you had 1.8 lakh crores NPAs. 18, 19 it's gone to 2.23 lakh crores, but that's a drop of 24. It's gone up 24%, but earlier it was going up by 50%. So now the graph has started to change. I mean, the number is still very high.
Yes.
2.2 lakh crores.
So that
Is
has
a high
come
number.
down because like 7.5%. SBI gross NPA 7.5%.
It's 7.5% of all
All
lending.
the this thing, and net NPA, which is after provision, is 3.07% as of now.
Right.
So these numbers also in percentage terms as well as in absolute terms,
Has
they are
started
high.
to come down.
They have come down,
But they're
they are
still high.
So it is a theory of relativity which is working. So when you say auto sector, we are selling fewer cars, but January 18 YOY growth was 31%. So that's what I'm saying, that if you use a short period to determine the performance, there can always be a problem about this YOY growth.
Okay,
so
what-
better view is
To
that
take a
you
longer view.
view.
Let me ask you this then. With what is happening with shadow banks, is this a Lehman moment for India?
The Lehman moment was a huge crisis. There is no comparison at all.
This is not at all like that, you think?
This is not at all that. Lehman crisis arose out of securitization, where the quality of the securitized paper has no link whatsoever with the underlying
Sure.
asset.
I meant it in the sense that some people are seeing it that this is a crisis of the
So-
financial sector and that this could be a contagion.
No,
Agree?
it does, because when there is a problem in the financial sector, unlike manufacturing sector, it has a contagion effect, because if you squeeze 1 or 2 or 3 NBFCs also,
Yes.
there can be contagion. That is what we see in ILFS. But situation is not at all comparable with what happened in 2008.
Okay, you're saying it is not comparable to that. There are problems, but it's not like that.
It is not like that.
It looked like there could be a bailout for Jet, but then recently you and the other banks have finally taken it to bankruptcy court. Why could you not save Jet Airways?
If 900 crore would have saved the Jet Airways, we would have given 900 crore.
On the subject of insolvency and bankruptcy, it looked like there could be a bailout for Jet, but then recently you and the other banks have finally taken it to bankruptcy court. Why could you not save Jet Airways?
So, one is that again, look at the Jet Airways process. Jet Airways, or for that matter, any account, there is a resolution process. One is IBC,
Yes,
another is your RBI framework, which was 12th February,
right.
and later on set aside by the Supreme Court, and a new framework which has come on 7 June. But one identical aspect of both the framework was that even outside NCLT, let there be a 6 months window
Yes,
in which we can resolve the issues.
yes.
Right? So there was a very sincere attempt
There was
by
an
the
attempt.
a very serious attempt to find out a resolution within RBI's framework of 12th February. At that time, that was the relevant framework to resolve.
But why didn't that happen? Because there were a couple of questions. One was, of course, Jet saying that till such time as we manage to resolve, till such time as we find a willing buyer, give us a bailout. I think the figure that was cited was about 900 crores. You may have the exact figure. But in the overall scheme of things, not very large. Why didn't you do it?
No, if 900 crore would have saved the Jet Airways, we would have given 900 crore.
No,
Let
would
me
have
tell
just kept it going till there's
going
there's
means
a
ultimately
buyer.
900, if 900 crore is burnt in 2 months, and again you are in the similar situation, then which lender or which bank would lend that money?
Okay.
So any resolution, again,
Yes.
there was a resolution plan, it was prepared, it was almost consented, agreed upon, but there were people who not, it is to say that banks backed out is very wrong.
Okay, then where was the problem
So
in your view?
no, the problem was that whoever as a promoter or any enterprise, it is the promoter, primary responsibility is on them.
Yes.
It is not on the lenders.
Okay,
Lenders can be supportive, lenders can help. But
so
if
where were
somebody
they falling short of
because whatever
meeting
they were,
your requirements?
because whatever they were to do under the resolution plan, which was effectively I could say signed or agreed upon on 28th of February.
Didn't happen?
So after, if promoters fail to do their part,
Yes.
then what do the lenders do?
So they failed at their end.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a matter of record.
So if you were to identify one big failure on their part or one lack of following through, what would that be?
Yeah, that means that if JET was to be resolved,
Yeah.
they had to bring in quickly some amount of money.
Right.
That was also part of the settlement plan.
The promoter himself had to put in
promoters, joint venture
some
partners,
joint venture partners.
whoever it was.
Right.
So there was a requirement. for
Whether it was
certain
Etihad,
covenant,
whether it was the
yeah,
promoter.
whoever it is, or a new promoter. Then
That
there
didn't
were,
happen.
Then there were issues around like what the promoters or the new money which was coming in. There were certain requirements, but they were also, those requirements required certain regulatory relaxations.
Right.
So which was not possible
Okay.
outside NCLT framework.
Right.
And when it became very clear that the demands or requirements, because they are not meeting certain regulatory guidelines,
Right.
and exemptions are not available outside NCLT framework,
There was
then
no choice but to go
to NCLT.
Let me ask you in conclusion, sir, that one of the things that the finance minister said was that the RBI's lending rate, what is called the repo rate, as they lower it, banks do not pass on those benefits to consumers. Now they will. Will they? Will you pass on benefits to consumers?
So again, we have to understand this repo rate business and this lending rate business.
Yes.
Again, you have already answered ALM, asset
Yes.
liability message.
Yes.
So let me explain you in layman's term, right? Repo rate in a way is a floating rate. Floating rate means it gets very frequently changed,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So whenever repo rate, it may go down, it may go up.
Yes.
So all your lending should be linked to repo rate or a external benchmark or some rate
Yes.
which takes into account the movement in the interest rate.
Right.
So that is where what we call the asset side.
Yes.
Then how do we fund it?
Hmm.
We fund it from taking deposits from you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You are a depositor. If I ask you that I will give you on your deposit a repo linked rate, right? Will you agree? You may not agree, and many depositors don't agree because they want the security of the fixed rate of interest.
Yes.
So when we talk about transmission, which is a very hot topic,
Yes.
is that transmission cannot happen on one side.
Okay.
It has to happen on both sides.
In other words, you're saying that if you're going to, in simple terms, if you're going to reduce the rates at which you're lending, you'll also have to reduce
The rate,
rates of interest.
interest on the deposits.
I see. So
So
then,
there
in
is
other
a
words, sir,
connect.
okay.
So-
But then, what happens to then the finance minister's promise saying that now banks
No, we have
are going to
done
give
it.
cheaper,
Yes,
the home
we are
loans
doing
and
that.
car loans are going to
We are
get
doing
cheaper.
it. We are doing it within
Okay.
that. Then the State Bank, we were the first bank. On 1st May, I linked my savings bank rate
Right.
above 1 lakh
Okay.
to repo.
Okay.
That is the liability side.
Right.
Okay.
But in terms of your
Yes.
lending,
So we did all the loans, working capital loans, which are your cash credit, overdraft.
Yes.
So from 1st May, they got linked to repo rate.
Okay.
And 1st July, SBI introduced repo linked home loans.
So in other words, again in simple terms, to put it, are home loans and car loans going to become cheaper, or you're saying they will, but it will come at a cost? Interest rates will also
they
go
will
down.
become cheaper. They become cheaper.
They have become. Okay.
Yes, 1st July, somebody borrowed under my new product,
Right.
which is repo linked lending rate for home loans.
Right.
So they were paying 8.4.
Okay.
What they will pay now is 8.05,
Right.
because after that 35 basis point cut has happened.
Okay.
So which products, how much, that is a asset liability management function of the bank.
Okay.
There is a something called interest rate sensitivity. Ideally, in ideal situation, whatever the market movement of interest rate is,
Right.
the aim of the bank's asset liability management
Is to try to.
to protect your net interest margin.
Okay. In conclusion, how long do you think this current downturn, slowdown, whatever you see it, do you see this turning around in the short term, or do you think we're in for a long haul?
To the
Very
extent it
briefly.
is cyclical, we will see the upside very quickly.
Hmm.
To the extent there are some structural issues in any sector,
It will
those
take time.
it will take time because those structural issues will have to be addressed.
Okay. Well, at least that's a nuanced take on the current economic situation, Mr. Kumar. But thank you very much indeed for sharing that with us. Thank you very much.